What if you're brand new to ProPresenter and you think, I think I understand it. It's kind of similar to PowerPoint, right? Except you hear talk about layers. And you're not sure what that means. Well, stick around and we'll talk about it. Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter Show. On today's show, Understanding Layers in ProPresenter. Hi and welcome again to the ProPresenter Show. This is the show where I teach all about ProPresenter. My name's Paul Allen Clifford. And before we get started, if you don't quite understand what the layers are, or maybe there's one layer in particular, like say the props layer, that you just don't quite get, tell me about it in the comments below. So this is admittedly not that I have anything to do with the programming of ProPresenter. I don't. I'm just their biggest fan. But admittedly, this is one of the things within ProPresenter that's perhaps one of the more confusing things. So I wanted to talk about each of the layers, what it does, the idea behind it. I've got other videos of some other things that they can do in addition to what it's designed to do, and then we'd go from there. So let's head over to the computer here, and we're on ProPresenter. And the first thing that you should know is that there are two layers that are not immediately obvious within ProPresenter. Now, if you want to see the other layers, look over on the right-hand side, and you have everything starting out with this video camera icon all the way up to the paper airplane icon. Those are all visual layers. The musical note here, the 8th note, that is actually representing the audio layer, which is just an audio layer. It doesn't show any video along with it, no images, nothing like that. It just plays audio. So we're going to just leave that as it is, and then I'm going to talk about the other layers. But first I wanted to talk about the layer underneath the live video layer. So in order to access that one, we go up here to Screens and then Configure Screens. And when we do that, you'll notice in the upper right hand corner there's a place where it says Screen Color. Now what's important for you to know is that this is the only place we interact with it. Right now my congregation screen, I've got it turned off, so it's not actually showing anything on that layer. But like inside a cave, if you've ever taken a cave tour, I'm in Kentucky and we have Mammoth Cave, and as part of every cave tour they show the natural color of the cave. Well, the natural color is pitch black, so black you can't see your hand in front of your face even if it's touching your nose. It's just that black. That's what's going on here. If there's nothing underneath it, there's no light whatsoever, it will look black, but it's technically clear. So just to keep that in mind. Another thing you should know is that each of your audience screens here, along with each of your stage screens, can have its own background color. So this congregation screen has no background color because I've got that turned off. The vertical TV I've turned to a magenta color. This alpha screen, I have it set up that I could send out green, which, by the way, that's where I would do it if I was chroma keying, removing a specific color, probably in this case green, but there are other situations where you'd use either blue, or one time I saw magenta, but in general it's probably going to be green or blue. I would set that up on this layer, and the reason is that the clear all button over here does not affect the background color layer. So when you clear all, it's going to clear to that solid color, and your video switcher or your live streaming software is still going to see that to make it transparent. So that's why I would put that on this layer. I've got another couple of TVs here, but you get the idea. So that's the background color layer, and that's where you set that up. You don't change it very often. You probably set it up and then don't change it until you get new hardware or new software or something like that. So that's what we would do there. Next layer up from that is the live video layer here. So we've got this video camera, and if we go all the way down, lower left hand corner, in case you missed my mouse, although it is kind of big and outlined in yellow, video inputs right here. Now I've got 9 showing. They're not all plugged in. That's why I have this question mark here. But this basically enables me to switch between any of them. I can also drag and drop those onto slides and have it switch automatically. So I do have the ability to have 8 or 9. I actually don't know how many video inputs you can have anymore, because first off, I don't have that many to test with. I need to check with Renewed Vision how many that we can do. I just haven't. But secondly, they can be any number of things. To add them, you can go up to ProPresenter and then Settings and then Inputs. And when you do that, under video inputs, you can add those, and you can add USB inputs, Thunderbolt inputs if your computer has Thunderbolt, NDI, which is a virtual input, Syphon if you're on a Mac and you're sending something from other software on the same Mac. There's just a few different choices there. You can also add Aircast as an input. So you've got several choices there that you can bring into your computer as video inputs. So that is the live video layer. Normally a video camera, but not always, since I told you about Syphon and NDI, for example. It could be captured video from a web browser, for example, or captured video from another piece of software, anything like that. So that's live video. Above that, we have the media layer. I describe this icon as a line drawing of a landscape. That's basically what it is. Now, there's only one media layer, and that's down here where we deal with all of this. So maybe you have your announcement slides and one media playlist, although most people just use them like folders, or maybe you have blue backgrounds, although I've played around with this and I have more than just blue backgrounds in there, but you can see what you have here. So normally media plays from the media layer, which is immediately underneath the slides and presentation layer. It's kind of called both depending on where you're looking at the interface. So for example, if I click on this background, this is one of the ones that I made, then you'll notice that this lit up, and to make it go away, I can just click on it. Now, I didn't delete it, I didn't break it, nothing like that. I've just hid it from view for right now. So that's what the media layer does, and I've got another video on the difference between the foreground and background behaviors of the media layer, but suffice it to say, it can do a couple of different jobs with either pre-recorded video or images. So that's what the media layer does. Above that is the slides layer. Now this is probably the layer that you're thinking about when you think about presentation software. For Google Slides, Keynote, PowerPoint, all of those, they just basically have the slides or presentation layer. That's all they have. So every slide is a self-contained unit. So you should think of the slides layer as primarily used for text. So in this case, right here we have my Church Tech U logo. Notice that it has this icon here that's indicating the media layer. Notice there's nothing on this slide whatsoever. This one looks like it just has text, but this is the dead giveaway right there that it is in fact a video, because it's got the media layer. Now if I go down here, right here, we've got my Pro GIFs lower third, and that lower third is text. So that's basically what you would do, is put text as text on the slides or presentation layer. Above that, we have the announcements layer. Now, the announcements layer is pretty simply just a copy of the slides or presentation layer. It has one capability that the slides/presentation layer doesn't have, or rather, let me say it the opposite. It doesn't have one capability, and that is if you were to put a song on it, it wouldn't display current and next text on the stage screen because it just doesn't have that ability. The idea behind the presentation layer is if you had another video output, you could have announcement slides running on that output, and then since it's above the slides layer, anything you do underneath, you wouldn't be able to see it because it would be covering it up completely. So that is the slides or presentation layer, or rather the announcement layer, covering up the slides or presentation layer. Above that, we have props, and props is my favorite layer, and it's also the most overused layer. Props can be added in any order and removed in any order. So I have a tutorial on how to use props to make a Jeopardy game. Why would you use props instead of slides? Because since you can put them in any order and remove them in any order, you can make it so, just picture a Jeopardy board, and you can pick any one of those slides, any one of those screens, and have it reveal the clue. And then that would stay as it is for the future. So basically, unlike the slides layer, when you select one item and then you select the other, the first one goes away. Props isn't necessarily like that. So that's what the props layer does. Some use cases for the props layer is, I've seen some churches that put their logo on the props layer, and they only send that out to the live stream, so that if someone accidentally comes across their live stream, they would know what church they're watching immediately. Kind of like the network television, cable television, etc. They will put up a logo in the corner to indicate what station you're on if you're just switching through channels. Same idea. You could also have maybe a lower third that comes in from time to time that talks about prayer and says, hey, if you need prayer, email this email address or text this number or what have you. So that's something else that could happen, and that could come in at any time and remove at any time while the logo stays up the entire time. So that's something that you can do with the props layer. The reason I say that it's the most overused is because people think, oh, I've got to do something odd. I'll just use the props layer. But there's only one props layer. So if you're already using it for something and you don't want the other screen to have it, I mean, I've got a hack, of course. There's a video on how to fix that. But it's a little bit more involved than most people want to deal with. So what you would have to do if you were in that situation is figure out which of those two things can you either live without or can you do from a different layer. So that's why I say it's the most overused, because people default to it instead of taking the extra 10 seconds and saying, now, can I do that from another layer? Because if you can, then that kind of keeps the props layer in reserve for things that only it can do. Back here above the props layer, which notice is just a stack of things, because you can put things onto the stack at any time and remove them at any time, or remove them all at the same time, we have this paper airplane. Now the paper airplane is the messages layer, and its job is to send a message to one of your audiences, a congregation, the live stream, etc., or all of them. It's really up to you. Using looks, we can talk about that in a totally different video. I've already got one up, but I'm going through updating everything. So The way I remember this is being a Gen Xer. When I was in high school, if I wanted to send a note across a classroom, I would fold it into a paper airplane and send it across the classroom. Well, not that I did such things, because I was more of a rule follower, although I thought I was a rebel. Not so much. But anyway, so that's the messages layer. Now there is one layer above the messages layer. Let me show you where that is. If you go to the little mustache man icon here, that's his official name. Thanks Renewed Vision for telling me that. And click on Edit Looks. Here at the very top, we have the masks layer. And the idea behind the masks layer is if you want to mask off part of your screen. Now you might want to do that for environmental projection, or you might want to do that if you need to change the size of the screen temporarily. So imagine that you had a screen that was right above, let's say I'm just over 6 foot tall. So let's say the screen is like 6.5 feet tall, right? And therefore I could walk underneath it no problem. All's well and good until you have a choir on risers and you put the bases on the top and the projection shines in their eyes. We'll use the masks layer to mask that off, and you could even raise the screen somewhat so that that wasn't covered up, and you'd be good to go. So that's another use of the masks layer. So that is all the different layers that we have in ProPresenter. And most of them you can just get a quick view by looking at the individual clear layer buttons, and then the other two, just remember you've got color below and mask above. They're in effect, they're both different colors. Color at the very bottom, and the mask is typically black, but you can make that as big or as small as you need to. So that's what those different layers are and what they do. If you like this content, you'd probably like my ProPresenter cheat sheet on layers. So head on over to tdm.fyi/pro-gifs 2608. I'm recording this in August, the 8th month of 2026. So go there and you'll see a list of all of the gifts from the end of July and this month as well of this year, and just pick the layers cheat sheet and give me your name and email address and I'll send that to you. Till next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.